Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Turkish Cultural Center. It's a great pleasure and honor to have you all with us this Friday evening. And I'm so privileged to have such wonderful journalists and writers from Turkey. And I would like to just introduce you, Mr. Salih Memecan, and Ergun Babahan, Mr. Deniz Ergurel, and as you know, Aydogan Vatandas from Deniz agency. One of the reasons why we wanted to have a discussion on Turkish media landscape is because the topic is very important. It's very timely that many people in the US are questioning the press freedom in Turkey and the current development that's happening in Turkey. So we thought as the Turkish Cultural Center, why don't you bring the journalists and writers from Turkey to answer all these questions and also give the opportunity to our fellow Americans to ask their questions so that these questions and these answers could open many different avenues of understanding Turkey and the Turkey-US relations. Now I would like to start introducing our moderator, Mr. Aydogan Vatandas. Aydogan Vatandas is an investigative journalist and the author of 11 books, many of which have become bestsellers in Turkey. He is the media representative of the Turkish Cihan News Agency in New York since 2006. And he is correspondent and contributor to Today's Zaman. He also contributes to the Record of New Jersey. He holds a master's degree in media studies at the New School in New York City. Now, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First, thank you very much for coming and participating to this event about the Turkish media. So today we will discuss the new media landscape in Turkey because we had a different media landscape before 2002. So we want to understand what changed and what remained unchanged in the Turkish media landscape. So we have three accomplished journalists and media figures from the Turkish media, and so we will try to understand the challenges that the Turkish media have been facing for a long time. So I would like to start with Mr. Salih Memecan. And Mr. Memecan, you are the president of the Media Association, which is actually a new organization. And could you please tell us what it represents and how it differs from the other media organizations?
Okay. Yes, I'm the president of the Media Association. I am actually a cartoonist. I've been working as a cartoonist, political cartoonist for Sabah newspaper for the last 22 years. And I was elected as the president. I guess I was the oldest among the board members. And also, they couldn't draw, I could draw, so we had a test. So who would draw the best bird picture? So I drew. Anyway, the media was diversified quite a bit within the last 10 years. Before that, it was just from one block and represented one block, and that block is usually associated with the state, with the elites, with the rich people, with the businessmen, with the generals, with the military, and so on. So media was part of the establishment. But within 10 years, this has changed. We have now media landscape was quite diversified. We had conservative media, we had Kurdish media, we have leftist media, we have all kinds of newspapers and televisions representing all kinds of people in Turkey, which was, of course, has something to do with technology, also with the EU process, more freedom and more expression of freedom. But representation of media was somehow still the old style. I mean, they were representing, the old guys, the elites, or whatever you call. And now we decided that we should have a better representation of media. So we founded this establishment, this association. And our purpose was to train, first, to train journalists, second, to understand the change in new media technologies and explain it to our members, and third, to care about the freedom of press. About the first thing, I mean, the training and education of journalists, we have, first, we had a joint program with ICFJ, which is International Center for Journalists. It's a Washington-based NGO. So together we had this seminar first on internet, then as a seminar in Istanbul. We had we came out with a media ethics booklet. I mean, we studied on it. So we had all the principles and so on. So there were two professors from the United States, professors of journalism. So we worked on that. And then we have media schools, the so-called media schools we go, and together jointly with some universities in Istanbul, we asked prominent journalists to come and tell them about their profession to young journalists. So they tell them about how to edit newspapers, how to broadcast, how to report about economics or whatever. So we have been doing this with some universities. That's part of, and we have panels and seminars. But the second thing, to understand the media business, that's a tough job, I mean, to understand it. It's changing so fast. The old business models are not working anymore, and we don't know what to do with the new ones. You know, now internet, the news are free. Besides, the definition of news has changed. I mean, the news before this technology, news was what's happening in Ankara, what's happening in Washington, what's happening in neighboring countries, or what's happening in economy. But now the news is more like what's happening to my cousin, what's happening to my friends, and so on. So this you get from Facebook, and other news you are supposed to get from the newspapers, but you get from internet, and it's free. So what we should do and how we should be ready for the new business models, we study that. We ask foreign journalists or experts to come and explain it to us. And Deniz is an expert on it in a way. He writes a column every week about this topic. Again, we are working on it. And the third issue is about the freedom of expression thing. Now people complain that it's getting worse. It's not getting worse. It should have been much better by now, but it's not getting worse. I mean, I've been practicing this cartooning thing so I've been working in newspaper offices for the last 25 years, and I've been drawing political cartoons for the last 40 years. So practice was quite difficult in 1990s, for instance. At that time, there was a danger of being killed. So many journalists were killed, and we never knew who killed and why they were killed. We were told that most of the time they were killed because of, Islamists came and killed them, or they were just killed. And some of us had our cars armored. Some of us had bought guns, including myself. I recently sold it, gave it to a friend. So, as a cartoonist, I never questioned why am I buying a gun. Right now, as I think of it, those were some years actually, and we journalists had some things to do with that. I mean, we had part of the blame because some of us were cooperating with the bad guys, I would say, who were planning military coups. Actually, journalists, the established newspapers or media in Turkey had this habit of cooperating with the strong guys, who are usually the generals and whoever behind the coups, and they were part of it. But now things have changed, mostly thanks to European Union process, And also thanks to technology now, if if journalists or newspapers hide something, we learn it from tweets or from internet, from some websites or whatever, or Facebook. So it's very difficult to hide the facts now. And also because there's a diversified media, one newspaper doesn't write, another one writes. So we find out things. But again, this doesn't mean that we don't have problems. We have problems which should have been corrected by now. The problem, for instance, we have about more than 4,000 investigations going on against journalists. And most of them are investigated. These are cases, not journalists themselves. I'm not the number of journalists. That's because they report about the ongoing court cases, basically about Ergenekon case. Ergenekon is the case against the plotters of the military coups. So the law says you should not report on that, but journalists do, because they think that we should know what's going on about this. So either the law should change or something has to be done, because 2,500 of them were already a court case, and if when the case finished, the journalists would go jail. But now the government has made some changes in the law. If it's up to 5 years, then if you don't repeat it, then it's okay. You are not persecuted.